What's up, guys? So in next series of videos we are going to talk about Azure, how to create a virtual machine on Azure, how to create a .NET core application, and the third video would be about how to host that application from your computer to the virtual machine that we created. And then the fourth would be solving few problems. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So what I had done is I had already logged on to my Azure account, but if you don't have an account, you can go to azure.microsoft.com and click on my account, or you can, if you're creating for the first time, you can click on free account. If you create a free account, you get a $200 credit for a first month, so you can experience few things, you can learn a few things on Azure for a month. So I have logged into portal.azure.com. So once you log in, you will be coming on this page, and I want you to go to virtual machine. There are a lot of things you can do in Azure portal, but today we are going to talk about how to create a virtual machine with Windows operating system, and how to deploy it, and what are the configuration that we are looking for. So virtual machine, once you click on virtual machine, there are two ways you can create a virtual machine. You can click on this plus button, or you can click on create a virtual machine. So let's click on create virtual machine. Once you click on that, it takes you to the next page saying what subscription you want to use. That means if you have multiple subscription, it's gonna list it over here, but as of now I'm gonna use my free trial version or free trial subscription. Resource group, you can choose a different resource group. There are a few resource group that I have created. Some of them were for demo purpose and the test purpose, but if you have created your new account, you might not have a resource group, so you can create a new resource group over here. But I'm going to use the demo website resource that I had already created. Virtual machine name, so that means what name you want to give to your virtual machine. I'm going to give it as a Azure demo. Okay, so that's the name of a computer, or if you have done a setup or install and Windows OS, they always ask for the PC name, so that's going to be your PC name. Now if we go next, it says which region you want to deploy your server. You can choose US East, West, the closest region to you. If you are in Asia, you can choose any location that is closest to you. For me, I'm in US. There are two regions that could be closest to me. East, actually several regions, East, South Central, West Central, but depending on the region, there are a few features activated and deactivated. But I'm going to use, for this instance, I'm going to use US East. And now available options, we are not going to choose any other availability zone or availability set. That is for redundancy. We don't need that for this project. The next portion, the next topic is image. Which image you want to install? Image meaning which operating system you want to install on your server. So you can choose from Ubuntu, Red Hat, CentOS, Debian, Ubuntu Server, Windows Server, Windows 10 Pro, but I'm going to use Windows Server 2019 Data Center as we are deploying our application in a server. If you notice that when I choose from Ubuntu to Windows Server 2019, it changed the size of the virtual machine. If you click on change size, that will pop up all the some of the available sizes. There are few filters added. We are using the small size, and there are some generations, but there are a lot of virtual machines that you can choose from, and each virtual machine have different CPUs, memory, different utilizations. more input output operations per seconds, and so on. So for this demonstration purpose, we are going to choose the default one, DS1 version 2, but depending on your project requirement, you can choose whichever one you want. On the rightmost side of the table, you can see it says cost per month. So if we deploy this machine with DS1 version 2, it's going to cost us $93.74. That's the estimate. But you can expect to get around $94 in a bill for using this this size of a virtual machine. So let's click on that, select the username and password, the administrative account. So for this demonstration purpose, I'm going to use test admin, and I'm going to use the password. You can choose the password, whichever one you want. Make sure you remember it, save it at some place so you don't forget it. I prefer to write down my username and password in any notes, so whenever I go back to that virtual machine, I would know which username and password I had used. Now, once I have the administrative account, username and password set up, it says inbound port rules. So select with the virtual machine network ports are accessed from the public internet. You can specify more limited or granular network access on the networking tab. Now, what this tab is about is we want to allow, or we want to use the HTTP and RDP, remote desktop connection. But if you want to use HTTPS, you can choose that, and SSH. So those port numbers are going to be open. That means if you request for a website, it's gonna, if you're using HTTP, it's going to use the port number 80 and you will get a response. If you have not done this, you won't get any information, or the server won't respond, because it is not listening to any public inbound traffic. The next thing says save money. Save up to 49% with the license you already own using Azure Hybrid Benefit. So if you already have your Windows license, you can use that key, but I don't have it, so I'm not going to use that. Let's click on next disk. If you want to add any extra disk, you can use this tab. You can use standard SSD or standard HDD. Standard HDD means a local magnetic hard drive. Standard SSD, it's a solid state hard drive, and the Premier SSD, it's very fast. It's good in performance. You can add more disks if you want. Create a new disk. You can add more disk as you want, but I don't need it, so I'm gonna click on close over here. Let's go to next, networking. If you have any networking rules that you want to set up, you can do so. So if you have public inbound ports, if you remember we did this, if you want to open any other ports, you can do that as well. Load balancing, if you have a big application, if you have multiple servers, or if you have too much traffic and you want to navigate the traffic between two servers, you use load balancing. For this demonstration purpose, we only have one server, so we don't need a load balancing, but if you want, you can click on yes over here and configure that as well. Management, boot diagnosis, it's gonna diagnose it's gonna monitor what's being done in boot diagnose. If there is an issue, it's going to pop up. OS guest diagnose, it operating system diagnose storage account. So it's going to diagnose if you have any issue with the storage, and it's going to notify you once you log in into the Azure portal. Identity, system assign managed identity. If you can give the permission of this virtual machine to someone to add few things, like if you have a team of people, you have a developer, you have a tester who are working on few things, you can assign them few rights to do few things. So those are the things for that. Enable auto shutdown. So Azure Active Directory, they can allow you to auto shut down, but we don't need that. We are not using those features at this moment. But there are a lot of things you can do in management or in any of these tabs. Let's go to the advanced. If you have any post configuration automation that you want to write, so if you have any scripts that you want to write while your virtual machine is turning on and you want to install few things, you can do from here. We click on next tags. You can add 11 tags. So let's say you have you are working on so many projects, you give it a name as a web project, or let's say demo Azure. Okay, you might have the production environment, production env. If it is a testing environment or it's a production environment, we can say testing. So there are a lot of tags that you can add depending on your organization rules. You click on review. If you want to make any changes before you deploy your server, you can do that. We are going to click on next, review plus create. So once we click on that, it takes us to the next page saying it gives us the product details, what kind of server we are going to deploy, the size of the server, any configuration changes we made, where which account it's going to use or which subscription it's going to use, and other details, inbound rules, where we are going to deploy it, and the few other configurations that we did. So once you verify those, let's go ahead and click on create. But if you see over here, download a template for automation. So if you're going to use similar configuration for other virtual machines, you can download the template and use the same template to deploy other virtual servers. So let's go ahead and click on create, and it's going to take few minutes to deploy or create your virtual machine. It might take, depending on the time, 5 to 10 minutes, but it usually is done under 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and wait for a few minutes. Okay, so the deployment is done. Now, if you click on deployment details, it has created few other resources that it needs, like network interface card and other things. So let's go to resource, and once we click on go to resource, it's gonna pop up a few graphs that will have CPU, network usage, disk in bytes, disk operations per second. So if you're doing any input, output, or write operations, it's going to notify that over here. But in the top, if you see the resource group, it's a demo website group, status, it's running, location is to, subscription, free trial, that's what we are using, subscription ID, that's a unique ID. Computer name, it's a Azure demo operating system. We have used Windows Server 2019, data center size, standard DS1, version 2, virtual CPU, and 3.5 gigabytes of memory. Public IP address is this, and the private IP address is this. And the virtual network subnet, it's in the demo website, virtual network 441 default, and DNS configuration if we want to do so. Now, we need the public IP address. to remotely connect to our virtual machine. So to remotely connect to a virtual machine from a Windows computer, it's very easy, very simple. You can connect to a virtual machine from Mac OS as well, but there is an app that you need. But to do it from Windows, you just need to write a remote desktop connection. So I don't know why it popped up on my other screen, but you can connect to the open remote desktop connection and write the IP address over here. So the IP address is 40.76.50.77. So you write your IP, your public IP address, not the private IP address, public IP address, and then connect. Now it's going to ask you, do you trust this remote connection? And we're going to say yes, connect. It's going to ask for the credential that you created for while we were creating this account. Now make sure you choose more option and use a different account. So the username was test admin, and I'm going to put my password. And then click on OK, and it's going to pop up this identity of the remote cannot be verified. Do you want to connect anyway? So do you trust this computer? Yes, we trust this computer, and we're going to click on yes, and it's going to connect in a minute. So here we are connecting to our virtual machine. It's trying to log on. As you see, it acts as a complete new computer. So it's going to take a minute to pop up everything, but it does open I believe Server Manager, and that's where we need to install our IIS. So once this is pop up, it's going to pop up the other few things in a minute or so. In the networks, make sure when you see this pop up open, please click on yes. So as I said, the Server Manager is popping up. Once that is popped up, we will click on add roles and features. So we want to add a role and a feature. Okay, it says it needs a minute to loads up everything. Once that is taken care of, we will be able to use our IIS server or web server to host our .NET Core application. So I think everything should be ready by now. I'll click on add roles and features. This thing will pop up. You can read through all this. It's always good to read. So click on next. We are going to select a role-based or feature-based installation. Now select the server or virtual hard disk on which to install a role or a feature. We want to select on the one that we already have. So we are going to it's already selected, so we click on next. What feature or role do we want to add? We want to add web server IIS. Add role and feature wizard. Click on add feature. We want to add that feature. Click on next. If you have an older application that runs on .NET Framework 3.5, you can click on check that box. I'm not going to make any other changes over here, but you could make any changes that are required by your application or by your organization. So let's click on next. Again, next. Web server, you can configure your web server, make any changes at this moment, or you can come back and make any changes. Request monitoring, if you want to, you can do the HTTP redirect, performance, static content compression, dynamic content compression if you want to do so. And these features are mostly of what you think works best for you. For this demonstration purpose, I'm not going to make any changes to it. So I'm going to click on next and install. It's going to take a few minutes to install IIS on our virtual machine. So we're going to wait till it's done. So as you can see, the installation of IIS is done, and we can click on close now. So to check if the IIS is working, there are two things you can do. Is you can check on localhost, and as well as you can check on from your computer, not a virtual machine but your computer. So let me show you how you can do so. Let's go to our computer, and we are going to copy this IP address, open a new tab, paste the IP address and press enter. And if this thing pops up similar to this, that means your server and your IIS both are working right. So in the next video, we will learn about .NET Core application and MVC application and how to publish it. A video after that would be about how to publish your website from, or how to deploy your project from your computer to the web server, and what are the changes, or if you have an error, what you need to do. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel.